one of the biggest discoveries is actually this tiny. See how small that is? This little chip may be the next big thing. And it sounds like it's right from a sci-fi movie, but people all over the world are implanting these into their wrists. So I asked my producer, Dean, to find out more about this cutting-edge technology and what it could mean for your health.
Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord Yahweh hath not done it? Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets. The lion hath roared, who will not fear? The Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua hath spoken, who can but prophesy? Amos chapter 3, verse 6 to verse 8. Shalom. I want to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to our venerable apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone on down. And peace and blessings to Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Haran coming back at you with another lesson. Lord willing to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and through the Spirit, I want to go into something known as the National Identity Security Act. Okay, the National Identity Security Act. All right, and I want to bring this out because through the Spirit, we're going to go through certain scenarios or phases of scenarios that could potentially play out, all right, in the bringing in of the MOTB, all right, because, you know, of course, it's been speculated, all right, for many years on how we're going to potentially see this MOTB come out, or at least how we could see this thing come out. Now, they could go in so many different directions, but the most plausible scenario, most likely scenario, all right, is what we're going to go through today. All right, considering current events, whether it be domestically or geopolitically, and even accounting for the past decade or so, where we are in prophecy, what is going to be the likely or the most likely scenario to bring about the MOTB. All right, and it starts with this right here. It says, introduced in early 2026. All right, so we are in April of 2026. So early 2026 is pretty much from January all the way to March, sometime around there, right? It says, introduced in early 2026, the Stop Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Act of 2026, H.R. 7270, is bipartisan legislation aimed at strengthening U.S. digital identity infrastructure. It combats rising identity fraud from hostile nations and organized crime by advancing secure, voluntary, privacy-enhancing digital credentials. Okay, so when you see voluntary, understand that that goes hand in hand with inconvenience. Anything that is made to be voluntary means that if you don't volunteer to do this, you're going to be stuck in an inconvenient position. All right, and that's all done by design. The system is designed to cause an inconvenience if you don't comply. All right. So what are some of the key aspects of the 2026 legislation? Let's read. The purpose is to address vulnerabilities in online identity verification and secure personal information, protecting individuals and government programs. Another one, it says digital credentials. It says provides support for states to implement advanced voluntary digital ID solutions to combat AI-driven fraud and deepfakes. Third, bipartisan support. Introduced by Representative Bill Foster, Democrat of Illinois, and Representative Pete Sessions, Republican of Texas, to modernize rather than replace existing identity systems. So the current identity system we have now, you have it the physical version, right? You can have your driver's license or your passport and so on and so forth. Okay, so to modernize it means to digitize it, right? Digitalize it. When you're digitalizing it, you're going from a modern form of identification to a modernized form of identification, which would be RFID chip, radio frequency identification chip. Okay, so there it's to replace an existing identity system. All right. It says the focus is addresses the growing wave of identity theft affecting financial systems and American families. There you go. Financial systems. So let's see how this thing all ties in, right? It says related identity security frameworks. Real ID Act 2005 sets minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards. It says Identity Theft and Assumption Deterrence Act makes it a federal crime to knowingly transfer or use another person's identity without authority. And then, of course, Improving Social Security's Service to Victims of Identity Theft Act mandates a single point of contact for Social Security number misuse. Okay, and it goes on and on and on. But the point is, all right, there's a bill, okay, which is introduced or was introduced early of this year. All right, it's called the Stop Identity Fraud and Stop Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Act of 2026. All right, which is also known as HR 7270. Okay, and it addresses the vulnerabilities of online identification verification. So the best way, or the greatest way for them to bring this all together, I put a few things together and asked the chat. Okay, considering the events that we're in now, all right, putting everything that's going on, at least regarding prophecy of the MOTB that we've witnessed and we've called out for all these years, putting it all together, what will be the most likely scenario, let's say, to get the CHIP to be mandated, obviously before 2030. So by the end of 2027, or maybe even before the end of 2028, because I believe they're going to tie it all in with the whole voters ID shit. And the voting, or at least the presidential voting, doesn't take place till 2028. Okay? They got the midterm elections, but really that doesn't really do anything. All right? It's just fluff. It doesn't really do anything. All right? So the main event will be coming in so-called November of 2028, which, again, a lot of people are saying that there's not going to be no election. It makes sense. Okay? But let's read this real quick. It says, if we compress the timeline to the end of 2027, right? Because at first I asked chat to give me a breakdown or simulate the most likely scenario of how the governments will be able to implement the RFID microchip, all right, for every man, woman, and child upon the face of the earth by 2030, right? Agenda 2030, you own nothing and you be happy, right? So then I was like, all right, well, it gave me some information, but what about if we compressed that timeline and shifted it to the end of 2027? Let's just say that, right? And this is what it came up with. It says, if we compress the timeline to the end of 2027, the scenario has to become much more intense and dependent on rapid shocks. That's exactly what the scriptures talk about. Okay, about a time like never before. All right, a woman that's in travail, but they shall not escape. When you're in travail, that's another way of saying you're on a long journey of turmoil. Okay, travel. When you're traveling, you're in travail. You're on a long journey of turmoil. It says, here's a tight, realistic simulation of how things could escalate, all right, in the very near future. Baseline constraint. As of now, governments, especially in the US and Europe, are actively resisting forced implantation, favoring digital IDs, biometrics, smartphone-based identity. So to reach anything close to mandated CHIPs by 2027, events would need to override normal political resistance very quickly. When we see what's going on with this whole Iran shit, right, the Iran-Israel shit that's going on, they said within 6 weeks, right, 6 weeks has caused irreparable damages that's going to leave a permanent scar on the global economy. It's very interesting that 6 weeks has caused something like that. So what's going to be happening within the next 6 months is going to shape everything when it comes to biblical prophecy regarding the MOTB be mandated upon the face of the earth. Okay? All roads lead to the Charagma from here on out. Let's read. Accelerated scenario 2026 to the end of 2027. Phase 1, mid to late 2026, identity systems start failing. So it's very interesting, like I said before, how they've already put a bill out there, all right, to stop Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Act of 2026. It's very interesting that they'll put this out there early in the year 2026, okay? It's almost like they're preparing for something. But we here. We always tell you, devils, we be watching you. And the Lord always leads us and guides us into certain information that most people wouldn't get to, okay? It says here, phase 1, mid to late 2026. And we're fast approaching that mid 2026, okay? From May 1st on down, you're going to see some crazy shit because May 1st, really, May Day is going to be America's actual 250th birthday, okay? That's going back to the Illuminati guidelines from Adam Weishaupt, okay? From 1776 to 2026 is America's 250th year. Okay, and also the 250th year of them kicking into this so-called New World Order agenda. Okay, so it culminates with the people being microchipped. All right, it says here, identity systems start failing. A plausible trigger would be a global identity/security breakdown, such as coordinated cyber attacks on banking plus ID infrastructure, mass identity theft affecting millions, collapse of trust in digital authentication. The governments are going to react. This is the reaction, right? You always have a problem. We have a solution. We have a reaction and we have a solution. So here's a reaction. It says, emergency legislation to secure identity systems, push toward tamper-proof identity solutions. At this point, right? This is again mid to late 2026. This is the point where implants are introduced as one of several ultra-secure identity options. So it's going to be presented initially as voluntary, right? As in, oh, the RFID microchip is also accepted. That's how they're going to frame it. It's accepted. It's accepted in this. It's accepted in that, right? It's still voluntary, but now it's tied to your security and to convenience, okay? It's tied to your security and to convenience in the sense of if you don't have it, you're not going to be in a convenient state. It's going to be inconvenient for you. Okay, that's part of the temptation part, right? So phase 2, which will be early 2027, emergency standardization, right? Governments begin aligning around national or regional digital ID frameworks. Examples of real-world foundations this world built on. It says European Union digital identity initiatives, U.S. state-level digital ID rollouts. The key shifts. Access to critical services becomes tied to verified digital identity, such as your banking, your healthcare, and your travel. Okay? Right now, as we speak, healthcare already took a hit with CV. It's going to come right back. They're going to bring it right back. Okay? The same playbook, but this time a lot more intensified. Your travel. You had this whole situation with the TSA and all that. So that's already established. They've established grounds that we can cause a disruption and then emerge from that disruption. We could emerge this new technology, this new wave, and people are going to go with it, especially if it grants you faster access rather than staying online for 3-4 hours, right? You take the CHIP, you're going to have a line or no line. It's just a lane that you could just scan your shit and you be out. And plus, increasingly, as of course, it's going to start off voluntary, but as the days go by, what's going to happen is those who end up taking the CHIP, they're going to seem like they're the better case. You see what I'm saying? Obviously, I mean, damn, everywhere you go, you're going to have less scrutiny. The system is not going to really be watching for you because they already know what you're doing. It's going to be those of us who don't take the CHIP. We're going to be the real problem for them because they don't really know what's going on within us, between us, around us, and so on and so forth. Okay? So it says here, you are not forced to get the CHIP yet, but you are forced to have a secure ID. That's how they're going to circumnavigate that whole legality part of it. Okay? They're going to go around the legality part. All right? You don't have to take it, right? You don't have to take it, but you're required to have a secure ID. See? Phase 3, by mid 2027, soft coercion begins. This is where things tighten quickly. Governments and corporations start prioritizing faster processing, fewer restrictions, and higher trust tiers. For people using implant-based authentication, right? So those people are going to be getting, like I said, the system is going to be, aiding to them in a more positive way, or at least it will appear to be that way, right? Realistic policies. Airports introduce fast lanes for implant users, right? Like we said. So these airports are going to start having, a lot of airports are renovating right now. Okay? They're renovating because they're getting ready for the new world, the reimagined world. All right, it says hospitals integrate instant access to medical data via chips, right? Financial institutions reduce fraud checks for CHIP authenticated users. So those of us who don't get the CHIP, they're going to be doing fraud checks on us on a damn near daily basis. It's all part of the frustration. Oh, you don't want to take it? No problem. The system is going to work against you all the way until you take it. That's part of the temptation part, the hour of temptation, the time of great testing. Okay? Are you going to be able to live in this world without the things of this world and rely upon the Lord? If not, you're going to take that CHIP, man, and you're going to be destroyed. All right. So a result of these changes, these new policies that are going to be implemented, people are going to feel increasing pressure, not from laws, but from system design. All right. It's a system coercion, so to speak. Phase 4 is going to be late 2027. It says limited mandates, narrow, not universal. What does that mean? It says sector-specific requirements. Some governments may require implants for military personnel, intelligence agencies, high security jobs. This already aligns with how governments treat biometric clearance, classified access systems. Okay, so that is in the name of national security, we need everyone to get the what. Okay, high control states move further. In more authoritarian systems, you could see mandatory advanced ID systems, possibly pilot programs requiring implants for internal travel, right? Just like you need to have a real ID in order to travel domestically. Same thing. Okay. Internal travel, you're going to have the implant, or certain employment sectors, certain jobs, you're going to have to, in order to be in that position or to be eligible for that position, you're going to have the CHIP. Okay. It says 3, functional mandates emerge. Instead of saying you must get the CHIP, the system effectively says you must have ultra secure ID, and this is the easiest way. This creates a de facto mandate for participation in society without explicit legal coercion. There you go. Okay? There you go. So now, how would this play out? Let's say we want to do this by the end of 2027. We're going to bring it right back to phase 1. What's going to be the trigger? All right, early 2026, as we saw with the whole Iran situation. All right, at the end of February 28th was really the beginning of it, right? A cascading global crisis hits. We've witnessed that global crisis that's hit, the whole energy crisis, right? So then the next thing that they're going to probably tie into this is going to be what we're about to read. It says, a coordinated cyber attack collapses major banking authentication systems. There was an article that came out, whether it was yesterday or the day before, where DJT called in a lot of these heads from the major banks for an emergency meeting. And everybody's like, yo, what's going on with that? You've been hearing a lot of these higher ups calling for higher security measures because AI could potentially strike a so-called cyber attack upon banking institutions and so on and so forth. All right, so the reality of some form of cyber attack has been put in the minds of a lot of people, where once it happens, people are gonna already know, like, oh, okay, this is what we got to do, or we're just gonna listen to the government, or whatever the case may be. Like, the propaganda is gonna be easier for them to use, all right, as a weapon. So it says here, identity theft reaches unprecedented levels. Millions lose access to assets. Air travel and border systems are repeatedly breached. Governments begin calling it the end of trust in digital identity. Okay, so again, this is all done by design. but they're gonna play it off like it's something that they just trying to figure out, just like everybody else, right? You notice every time something drastically insane happens on the world stage, all these elites, for some reason, they don't seem to panic like everybody else. They seem to be the ones to have everything under control and tell the world what they got to do, right? It's not like we all figuring it out because nobody knows what's going on. They always know what's going on, and we got to listen to them. It says emergency summits are led by organizations like the United Nations and blocs such as the European Union. Phase 2, emergency identity protocols. This is going to be mid-2026. All right, so let's see how that plays out. It says the U.S. and allies pass sweeping legislation. All citizens must enroll in a next-generation identity system. Old authentication methods, passwords, physical IDs are phased out. The system is phrased as essential for restoring economic stability and national security. At first, multiple options exist. For example, you got your biometric scans, right? You got encrypted wearable devices, and of course, implantable RFID microchips. Okay, so that's going to be phase 2, right? Emergency identity protocols. All right, so again, going back to the bill that was introduced, all right, HR 7270, the Stop Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Act of 2026. Most people didn't even know this actually is playing out. Okay, so let's read the National Identity Security Act. Keep that in mind. All right, phase 3, system failure and consolidation. What does that mean? Let's read. It says problems emerge quickly. The biometric systems are spoofed. Wearables are stolen or hacked. Black markets for identity credentials explode. Just like when the CV happened, you had all those people that were creating fake Vanessa certificates. They call them the fakies. These devils know. They already simulate this shit. They know that people gonna be doing that shit. That's just human nature, right? So they're gonna have to find a way to curtail that. Remember, this is the Lord's test. He's just using Esau to bring this about, but this is the Lord's test, man. All right, so don't think you're gonna just find a way to go through the test without going through it the right way. It says here, governments declare that only internally embedded hardware is secure. You hear that? Only internally embedded hardware is secure. A new global standard is announced. The Persistent Identity Authentication, which is known as PIA. Phase 4, the shift to mandate. It's going to be early 2027. It says, a second wave of crisis hits. Financial systems freeze due to fraud overload. So, hey, like I said, we could very well see this devil run this whole war situation and emergency stuff. He could run this shit till the end of the year and then really create that crisis. And then the very beginning of next year, they could make the mandates. They could bring in the mandates because of it being a solution to this kind of problem right here. The second wave of crisis that's going to hit. So this year, you got energy crisis. Next year, it's going to be something else tied into the banking, which is where they're going to bring in the CHIP as in mandatory. Okay. Now, again, this is all, you want to call it speculation in terms of dates. All right. But events or the sequence of events could very well play out just like we're reading right now. Okay. Like I said, it's a likely scenario of how they're going to bring this MOTB into reality. Okay. So it says the second wave of crisis hits. Financial systems freeze due to fraud overload. Hospitals report fatal errors from identity mismatches. Election systems are compromised. Ooh. Under emergency powers, countries begin issuing orders. In the United States, Congress passes a National Identity Security Act. They're going to officially pass it. Right now, it's been introduced in 2026. Okay? It's been introduced in 2026 to do what? To address vulnerabilities in online identity verification and secure personal information, protecting individuals and government programs. Okay. Very interesting. So that's been introduced as a bill. And what happens when a bill is passed? It becomes law. Okay, so Congress passes a national Identity Security Act, okay, which is already in a bill form, is already out there. All right, from the beginning of this year, it says the Department of Homeland Security oversees rollout, the DHS. Implementation becomes required for banking access, employment eligibility, healthcare services, and that no man might buy or sell. Okay. At first, it's framed as required to participate in critical systems. And then phase 5, the full enforcement, is going to be mid to late 2027. It says the distinction between required for services and mandatory disappears. Okay? What changes? The economy. All financial transactions require chip authentication. Cash is eliminated. Unchipped individuals cannot buy or sell. Damn. That's word for word in the scriptures. Let's get that. Okay, let's get that. And see, the closer we get, the more you see it. And all these camps that be joking around talking about it's everything but what it is, they're going to have, I don't know how they even going to answer that question when the day comes, man. I don't know what, like, man, listen, let's get this real quick. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 16 says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. The word mark in the Greek is charagma, which is literally the RFID chip. That's literally what it is. Okay? Anyone telling you otherwise is a false prophet and a liar, and the Lord's going to destroy them if they don't repent. Okay? And those who listen to them, you're going to get it worse. All right? Because you had the men who were telling you the truth on this side, starting from my elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down, but you chose not to listen to that. But really, the Lord put the Spirit on you for you not to get it. All right, so he could destroy you. Okay? But the warning definitely has gone out, and therefore your blood is not on our hands, man. Your blood is off our hands, all right? Healthcare. It says hospitals refuse treatment without identity verification. Emergency services prioritize C-hipped individuals. Movement. So imagine you like dying on the side of the road, and the ambulance finally pulls up on you, and they're like, "Oh, are you microchipped? Oh, you don't have any the real authentic version of ID verification that we can't take you nowhere. We can't do nothing for you. We're gonna have to leave you here to die." Crazy work, right? It says movement. Okay, movement. Travel checkpoints can scan implants. Public transport requires authentication. All right, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. Okay, education. Children are implanted to attend school. All right, just like you had to take the jump shot in order to go to school, colleges, and all that. Same thing, same concept. Okay. Attendance, behavior, and performance are tracked. Phase 6, the global alignment. Under pressure from economic collapse, most countries adopt the same system. That's why the global economy is being fucked with right now. So that all the countries that, especially third world countries that don't make that adjustment and cling on to the new policies of the banking industries, they're going to suffer, man. The citizens are going to suffer until they adopt the new world order system of living, which is all citizens must have the CHIP. Like you gotta have that. That's the first step of negotiation. Okay. So most countries adopt the same system. International travel requires compatible implants. Global databases synchronize identity records. The United Nations coordinates standards, but enforcement remains national. Now, phase 7, daily life in late 2027 is going to be the typical day looks like this. You wake up and your home system authenticates your presence via implant. Your workplace logs your arrival automatically. Every purchase, message, and movement is tied to your identity. There is no more anonymity. All right, no more, oh, I'm anonymous. I'm using this name to say all this bullshit, and nobody really knows my real name. No, those days are gone. Those days are gone. Okay? Resistance and control. This is phase 8. A minority refuses implantation, and that's going to be us. We're going to be that minority. All right, the elect of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, they face exclusion from the economy, inability to travel, loss of legal identity status. Okay? So these are the types of things that we're gonna have to be ready to deal with. Okay? Loss of legal identity status. Imagine being a citizen of this country and then they turn around and tell you, well, you've lost your identity, you've lost your legal identity because we don't know what your status is. We don't know who you are. Okay? Governments justify enforcements as necessary to prevent systemic collapse. Some groups attempt to resist by shielding or hacking implants, creating underground economies. But enforcement tightens. Penalties for tampering. You got people say, oh, I'm going to take the C-hip and then right before the missiles hit, I'm going to just take it out. There'll be penalties for tampering with that shit. Okay? In order to keep it mandated, if you fuck with it, you're going to have to face some penalties. And some of the penalties is going to be up onto what? Death. Okay? By way of guillotine. All right? Surveillance tied directly to identity. Okay? So yeah, man, in order for them to reach this point, they said multiple global systems have to fail in rapid succession. Public willingness to trade bodily autonomy for stability must increase. Legal systems bypassed via prolonged emergency powers. Trump is doing that right now as we speak. Okay? He said it takes too long. You can't ask for approval from all different states. It's going to take way too long. When you got shit to do, strike an emergency, call for a state of emergency or national emergency, and let's get the ball rolling from there, right? No viable, non-invasive alternatives surviving, right? So there's no other way. You have to take it has to go through your skin. Okay, it has to go through your skin, man. All right. But yeah, just want to, tap on this a little bit. You got, hey, chat is doing a great job. Is able to formulate based on the information you give it. You know what I'm saying? It could formulate some pretty interesting things. And that's what these devils use too on a grander scale though. Right? The CERNs and all these different things that they have, right? They got mediums that tell them things that's to come. The only thing they don't know is the day of the Lord, as the actual day Yahushua returns. But they know it's close. It's like it. They know it's near. It's close, man. Right? Because they be listening to the prophets. Okay? They be listening to the prophets. And of course, our people don't listen, but these people listen. Okay, these people listen. All right, it's the book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3 says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Okay? So we're seeing the prophecies playing out right now. And we're eagerly waiting for that day where these devils going to eventually just make this thing mandatory, man. First, like I said, it may start off voluntarily, okay, and then start putting the squeeze on those who don't comply. And eventually, once a lot of people are already on it and not feeling too alarmed and everything seems well and everything seems like fine, it's great. All your celebrities are doing it. Sports athletes are doing it. Everybody seems to be doing it. And the less who are not doing it seem to be more of an eyesore in society, right? Everybody looking at you funny, right? You have that social pressure going on. How you going to survive some shit like that, man? You gotta be in the mindset of the three holy children when Babylon, or at least Nebuchadnezzar, was irate that they wouldn't bow down to worship that statue that he had put up, man. Okay? Look at Daniel. You had all those wicked ass niggas in Babylon trying to get Daniel hemmed up. Okay? Say, oh, king, look, this guy over here, we need to come up with a decree so he can't pray to no other God besides the gods that we set up over here. Right? Set it up. Nobody could pray to their God no more, at least for the next month. And of course, Daniel opens his window, faces the east, starts praying. They caught him, they spied on him. They said, hey, look, king, you came down with this decree. Look, that's your signature right there. That's your signet. Why is this Daniel guy, is he exempt from the law that you put upon this land right here? See? And the pressure from the people there, the king said, oh, fuck. Daniel, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. Put you in the lion's den real quick. See? So you've had situations in the past where society, all right, was a catalyst to some form of persecution of the men of the Lord. Okay, but the Lord always found a way, all right, or made a way, I should say. All right, Yahweh Shemi Yahushua always made a way for his men to escape that unjust travail that they were about to face, man. Okay, if it was meant to be, the Lord always delivered us. But if we were supposed to go through that fire, he would put us through that fire. But at the end, he's gonna cool us off. Okay? But this time around, this is the end of it, man. The Lord's gonna fire all of us up. Okay? Through the Spirit. He's gonna fire all of us up, man, so we could finish this game the right way. All right, spiritual power coming, man. It's coming. All right, because these devils are about to make their move. Okay? We are in those times. They're about to make their move, man. All right, let me get this last precept and we're gonna close it out. All right. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, and verse 33. It says, "And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come." And what is the this that we're talking about here? We're talking about all the end time prophecies, but specifically the mandatory implementation of the MOTB. Okay. So when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Then shall they know that a prophet had been among them. So that's when people are going to be like, yo, the men of GMS were right. We should have listened. It's too late. Right, your ass is being hauled up into a C camp to get that C hip, and then that's going to be it for your ass. That's what's coming for a lot of people. Okay, a lot of people. All right. So anyway, I'm ending off there. Lord willing, you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash, the water Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.